Hello. How are you, everybody? So I'm alone today. Mr. Pope is off. He's going to be back next week while I'm going to be on vacation. And in 2 weeks, we're going to be both of us together for Mr. Pope's last stream. I know I was reading the chat just before getting on. I know people are sad, but Eric is resting today. He wants to be back in strength for next week. So if everything goes as planned, because we're still looking for Stefan Jawinski, he's hiding somewhere in the building. We have a Q&A plan for him. He was on the show last week to talk about balancing. We had a blog this week that came out. So we have a bunch of questions to go through. So Stefan should be there. A couple of news before we hit the ground running. It is the last week of PlayStation Plus. So we've had a lot of new players in the past couple of weeks. So there's 1 week left. Tell your friends on PlayStation 4 you have 1 week left to come and grab the standard edition for free. So it's not a trial. You keep it forever. So 1 week still, you can come aboard. Big shout out to Forerunner Dojo, the PS4 Newcomer Mentor Program. Hey, Stephen just entered the room. I feel so much better now. So Stephen will be here in a couple of minutes. So huge shout out to Pesky Peacekeeper and his lovely wife, because doing an amazing work on this initiative of the Mentor Program. I don't know if they crossed 1,000 people yet, but it's very, very good. So thank you for everything. Weekly Arcade, Grimson the Deathless. So I'm going to go on and read the little narrative. It is time to battle Grimson the Deathless and learn all about his strange story. A mysterious warrior of Grunwald believes he is the offspring of Viking gods, who had granted him the gift of immortality. To prove his point, he fights only the best, and he wants to challenge you. You, yes, you. Now. I love when we have black and white like that. It's great. And it's February 28th, so we have a new roadmap coming on. So Max, can you please bring us the roadmap? So let's take a look. So this weekend is a Brawl Vanquisher Challenge up until March 4th. On the 2nd of March, it's Year 3, Season 1, Campaign 3. Hey, you're following me? So Year 3, Season 1, Campaign 3 of the Faction War starting. Next week, Vortigern's Task. Then Rank Vortigern Challenge. And as you can see, starting on March 14 until March 28th, is the seasonal event, something very cool planned for those 2 weeks. So we're going to reveal everything on March 14. And on March 29th, Year 3, Season 1, Campaign 5 of the Faction War. So I hope everybody's following me because I am being lost myself. So Year 3, Season 1, Campaign 5. It's like magic. So this is happening. This is the roadmap for the following month. A lot of things planned in the game, but keep an eye out for March 14. Because that's when the event is going to be fully detailed and it's going to be a lot of fun. So event order for this week, I just talked about in the roadmap. The Brawl Vanquisher Challenge. The rewards, first place, it's to be the faction with the most Brawl matches win. So you need to participate, obviously, to get the reward. First place is getting 2,500 steel. Second place, 1,500. And the third place, 1,000 steel. It starts on March 1st, year 19. So somebody just forgot 2,000 years of our existence. So Pope is on vacation, but he still found a manage to screw with me in the run of show. Thank you, Eric. I love that. It starts at 1 p.m. today, Montreal time. And it ends on March 4th, 2019. So we just jumped 2,000 years in the future at 3 p.m. Some tournaments to talk about. Lord Dam, the famous Lord Dam. On PC, 4v4 Faction War Domination. It's the first 4v4 tournament directly linked to Faction Domination. So teams participating will need to play a specific faction for each match. It's in 2 days, Saturday, March 2nd at 11 a.m. EST, 6 p.m. EET. Seriously, guys, we need to align on time difference. Because we still, like, sometimes it's UTC and EET. What does EET mean? Anyone know?
Eastern European.
Eastern European time? EET. So I guess Moscow is EET. And then the Arena.tv, formerly For Honor Arena, they changed the name, aka like the Prince, and the artist formerly known as the Prince. 4v4, no, PS4 2v2 tournament series this Saturday at 1 p.m. EST. This time only one time to align. So if I'm looking at everything else, so it means 6 p.m. UTC, +7, 8 p.m. EECET, and anyway, fuck. Are you all lost? Yeah, you love that? Google it. You'll see it's very easy to find your way around time difference. And I think in a week from now, we're changing time in North America, so it's going to screw everybody over because now Europe is not changing at the same time as us. And that really, that's a good way to really mess up all of our Outlook calendars. Really fun. And also PC tournament on Sunday, March 3rd at 1 p.m. EST. In both cases, the tournament, the first place gets $250 USD plus donations. So content of the week. It's a new free roam emote. The Penguin Walk. Let's take a look, Max. So we are back with Mr. Stefan Jawinski. He found his way to the basement of the building.
It's a maze down here, right?
I was getting, yeah, it's a maze. Come on. For how long have you been here?
Well, a couple days. Yeah, I don't know.
A couple days. From your desk to this room is pretty much a straight line. So.
Yeah, but there's so many hazards on the way.
Yeah, like you need to swap your cars and.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Ambushed all the time. Ganks on the way, and you know.
So Steph, it's the first time we do Q&A together.
Ah, that's true.
Yeah, you've done it a bunch with Eric. So I asked Eric today about advice.
What about the at E3? I think you sang to me though. Right?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't that a QA?
I sang.
Do I get the same treatment here or no?
No.
Oh.
No, but I was lip singing the trailer.
Yes,
No?
it was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you
still
very
remember
much.
it.
Thank you very much. I think there's a video of that going on. I think Mistress taped that. So, as I mentioned many times, I'm a really shitty player. So I'm going to read the questions, but I don't really understand them.
Even better.
So I'm the people's voice for today's show. So I'm going to try to read them as they make sense. And you try to answer them the best as you can.
And you're gonna read the names of the people as well?
The first one, I'm not sure. The filthy Spaniard.
It's not even the worst one.
Yeah, it's not the worst. I won't go through the names. I think it's the questions. We got a bunch of questions. Sometimes there's a name, but many people ask the same question.
Sure.
So, you ready?
Let's go.
We should have some like sound effect when we start.
Bow.
Exactly. Like that. So, Stefan, was the recent buff to dodge iframes intended?
No. This was...
Second question. No.
Perfect.
You want to give more background on that?
We don't have super amount of details that we want to do. Obviously, we're not fans of trying to nerf offense at this point. We've been doing concerted efforts over the last year to try to increase offense. And here we're saying, hey, suddenly dodges are beating a bunch of bashes that we're not expecting based on a later timing. So
Okay.
we're investigating. We'll try to figure out what to do next.
So it was not.
Right.
Okay, this was a very short question. So next one is 5 lines long. So try to keep track, people. Some characters have instant startup of their blocks when they dodge. These are Kensei, Conqueror, Blackbriar, and Chindi. This allows them to reaction block some 400 milliseconds attacks from neutral and negate mix-ups like PK's daggers cancel. You're still following up there? Do you intend to remove this 0 millisecond startup on a defensive move and standardize it to 100 milliseconds like all other guard switches?
Yes, this is something we're investigating right now. Most people end up either dodging on the same side as they do, or if you're an assassin, there's a 100 ms hole before you get the deflect defense grid. Kensei and Conk, Tiandi, Blackprior can dodge this way from this stance and then get superior block on the other side, basically instantly. We think it should be dodge 100 and then you get block. So investigating, but yes.
Good. As a rule of thumb, the question should not be longer than the answer. So in that case, I think we were safe. I think your answer was longer.
I think all my answers are super long. But
Yeah, just saying. No, so far it's going good. So far it's not too long. So we're still there. So there's still, third question. There's still a 200 milliseconds delay between switching guards and attacking GB for static guard characters, and it makes attacking after fainting far worse. I'm trying to do some acting here. For static guard characters. Is this intentional, Stefan? And can it be removed, please?
yes to both, actually.
It is intentional and it will be removed?
Yes. So right now, assassins, you can go 100 ms over and then attack. Regular heroes do have 100 over, you get block, then 200 after that, so 300 in total. Then you can attack. There is a stance change attack, which is getting a bit nebulous corners of the system, but we want it to be 100 ms and then attack for everybody.
So you see, it was intentional. Fourth question. Blackprior has the old guard switch recovery that prevents dodging for 300 milliseconds after a guard switch. This was originally removed for static guard heroes in Season 6. Will it be removed for Blackprior as well?
Yes, so Blackprior will be another character that will follow the rules. Everyone will be the same 100 ms on the stance change, get defense, 100 ms on the stance change, and perform your actions. This is what we want across the board globally. Blackprior suffered from not having it on launch, I guess because it was one of those ones that gets overlooked when you make all the changes.
Yeah.
Something's really early in development. Did it get fixed? Yeah, everything got fixed. No, actually, it didn't all get fixed. But yes, I would expect, presumably at the start of Season 10, we will see the stance change fix across the board, and this will affect Blackprior as well.
Okay. Good. So, other questions. In fact, many characters' offense can be avoided by faster characters merely walking backwards, and many more by unlock sprinting. Are the devs looking at any ways to limit the ability of characters to avoid offense with spacing, at least in dual mode?
Yes, there's also unlock rolling, which can be a problem. There are a number of ways, these three ways basically, principally, that allow you to avoid mix-ups or initiation and so on. You can imagine if you're Aramusha and your forward walk speed is super slow versus a Shinobi who has a back strafe speed that's super high, it's going to be very difficult to close this gap. Certain characters do have gap closers, but when there's only one thing that the opponent can do to you, it can be very predictable. What we want to do is look at globally creating upper and lower bounds to standardize certain things like forward strafe speed should be presumably a minimum of X. Backward strafe speed should be presumably a minimum of X minus whatever, 1. Unlock. There's a lot of shuffle dancing right now we see people playing where, yeah, there's an opponent in front of me, so I unlock, relock while holding backwards, and I can space out the opponent faster than they can space forward. That's not good. Obviously, it looks pretty crap, and it drastically reduces the amount of attacks that can work. Unlock roll is another big one. The worst case scenario being that if I hit you and you unlock and roll, you don't pay a stance change to neutral penalty, you don't go through a dodge, you just go directly to roll, which has very short guard break immunity, which means basically, unless you have a massive gap closer like Warden, how are you going to stop the opponent from rolling away? And this means Shugoki mix-up has big problems. Okay. It means a lot of characters have big problems. To make a long story short, we want, when you're in duel, scenarios or 1v1 scenarios to be much more in a scenario where moving away has a certain amount of risk, and there's some kind of option for the opponent to deal with it.
Okay.
Does it
All this way to have better duel and not too defensive.
Exactly. At the same time, we don't want to
I got that.
Perfect. We don't want to hit it with a meteor because you're still in 4v4 modes where you have 1v2s, 2v1s, 2v2s, 4v4s, whatever. And we don't want to make it too frustrating to try to disengage, get an objective that's far away, whatever you need to do. Cool. So yes, but it's got to be a measured global fix.
So, next questions. Several characters are doing far better in the balanced matrices we've been shown than might be expected. Aramusha is one of these, and you love Aramusha, as is JJ. To what extent is this party down to raw damage numbers? JJ and Hara, I love like when they talk about a character with like nicknames. JJ and Hara.
Zerk. Conk.
Exactly. Both have very highly damaging attacks, even if they are not considered particularly potent at the top end of play.
Okay, so the question being like, do we think that Aramusha and Zhangjung are strong because they're straight up doing big damage on their hits? I think that's partially the reason when you look at full population win matrices on duel, platinum and above players in duel. Zhangjung's up there, Aramusha's reasonably up there. So you can see those kind of things bubble to the top. Kensei in full population as well, who's doing 20 damage lights, mostly, let's say. And on the 4v4 side, when you look at full population or top 4%, you are seeing things like Zhangjung, things like Aramusha, and the strong damaging attacks. At the same time, across both these sets of matrices, you're also seeing the dodge characters. So like what is a fast dodge attack? Orochi, Valkyrie, Kensei on the full population duel front. So kind of my supposition as to what's happening is if you have big damage, you're going to be doing well at full population. If you have a dodge attack that is considered strong, you're going to be doing well at full population. And if you have a reasonable number of 500 MS lights, you're going to be doing okay. And Zhangjung's got all of the above. Aramusha has some of the above. Kensei, Orochi, Valkyrie have some of the above. And I think that's really the explanation as to why they bubble to the top at full population. It's the same early on in the first year. We would see Kensei actually at the top of win rates when you look at certain skill levels, usually at mid or lower. And you might recall old Kensei didn't have dodge attacks that continued on block, didn't have all the mix-ups that you see today, had the unblockable top-heavy finisher that was canceled at a really weird timing, and was quite weak early on in high-level play. But 20 damage lights more or less across the board, reasonably quick attacks when you consider the environment of the time, year one, and dodge attacks. He dodges left, but attacks right. That's really confusing for trying to learn the game. So very much I see, at least in my mind, the guess is at full population, that kind of entry difficulty is why we're seeing stuff like the Zhangjung, Aramusha, even now Kensei, Valkyrie and Orochi in full population duel there. I hope that answered the question. I kind of forgot what it was at some point.
If they will ask it again, worst case. So, next question. Would it not be better to nerf crowd control moves like Stampede Charge and Sickle Rain and compensating the hero with a different buff instead of just waiting until the hero gets reworked?
So,
good answer, Stefan.
What part do I want to go with? at a time. So generally what's happening with crowd control moves, right? Like we have seen in year 1, season 3 and 4, Highlander ended up with caber toss that can be interrupted at any time on hit. Shaman in season 4 released with Predator's Mercy that can be interrupted anytime on hit. And we've seen slowly over time stuff like Shigoki Hug is now interruptible on hit during the hug portion. We're talking about stuff like Stampede Charge, other moves on other characters that are kind of going to get the same treatment. At least that's what we want to do. The benefit that we see there is, yes, you can't murder someone who a Highlander is caber tossing. You have to wait until the end so that ideally Highlander gets their full damage, you get your damage, and there's a bit of timing involved, which means that the opponent could stop it. It also means there's some kind of upper limit to how much damage the victim can suffer based on how many attacks can you throw at the time that is the best time to throw it. Whereas something like Lawbringer Flip, long arm, is hit, just go crazy and murder the victim during the animation. So obviously that feels bad if you're the one person who's being victimized, and we're kind of going in this direction. So that's what we want. Ideally, less crowd control, ganking, obscene power. At the same time, why do we decide to do it as we go through the heroes? Is because I think you may remember in season 7-ish, year 2, season 7 as it was, we did make some nerfs to Shigoki, which were global fixes. He was one of the characters that wasn't doing something generally. And everybody got up in arms because we're nerfing Shigoki unfairly, even though it was a low-tier character. And yeah, the intention is not to nerf low-tier characters for no reason. It's to standardize certain things. So the blowback from there was kind of negative. So we're a little more like, let's give them the benefit that they want or that they need at the same time that we nerf some part of their kit.
Makes sense.
And at the same time, we don't want to do little benefit for the character now to take away something else that we don't want that little thing to be something we want to keep. So that's the danger, because then I don't think it'll be easy to take that little thing away again, because then we'll hear complaints about that.
But it's tricky. It's really tricky.
So that balancing of
by trying
what
to fix something and then you try to fix a bigger thing,
exactly,
you just create new problems.
Exactly.
So next question, will Glad's unnaturally short guard duration ever be buffed?
So we are experimenting with this right now. Gladiator has a reflex guard like the Assassins. Most Assassins have an 1100 MS period, 0 to 100, no block, and then 1000 of block time, and then it decays. Shinobi and Gladiator have shorter ones with, I think Shinobi launched with more or less Gladiator timings, I think a little longer. I want to say 600, and then got extended. I don't see any reason why they can't all be the full timing as any reflex guard, especially considering when you look at Gladiator in 4v4 right now is underperforming. And I think a big part of that is in how difficult it is to defend with a super short reflex guard against 2 or 3 external attacks.
So next one. It's great to hear that you're nerfing revenge gain in 1v1s, but obviously, like there's a compliment, then there's a question. Wouldn't it be better to just cap revenge gain to 80% in 1v1s and have that cap be removed when another enemy attacks? Because no revenge gain in 1v1s would suck when you duel someone on you. Both are at near death, but then his ally comes and finishes you off quickly.
So what are we talking about for revenge? Revenge gain right now, you gain it in 1v1s on live. We want to make it so that in 4v4s, in one-on-one, or I'm outnumbering you scenarios, I do not get revenge. And the reason for that, especially if I'm outnumbering you seems obvious, I think. If it's one-on-one, we feel that it should be about your fight and feet kits that determine who is the outcome or the victor in this. What we don't want is, even in 1v1, let's say you went to 80% of your revenge meter, right, in a 1-on-1 and then a capped. So, okay, that's a little hard to feedback, but whatever. Let's skip that part. Luke then rolls up to my 1-on-1 and hits my opponent.
I do that.
Right? And if he's at 80%, probably now he's at 100% or close to 100%. So Luke has done 1 or 2 hits and has basically screwed up the 1v1 fight because now the other person has revenge and we're in trouble.
I do that as well.
So it's easy to make this happen, right? But we think it would be more fair if in that kind of scenario where maybe you and I have been dueling for a long time and we're both down to a very low life, it is a good idea for Luke to show up and try to last hit and get the kill.
I do that. One way to get a kill for me.
That's a good one. But at the same time, if Luke shows up early, then I will get revenge, or the victim will get revenge. That seems like it will be the best case scenario, and what we're looking at is no revenge gain 1v1, no revenge gain outnumbering, but slightly increased rate of gain when you're 1v2, 1v3, or 1v4 to try to compensate for the fact that, yes, you were starting at 0 meter. So you need to gain a little faster to get it at roughly, the scenarios that you want to get it in.
Cool. So next one. Will you give Orochi and PK some sort of unblockable or bash, preferably unblockable, so that they are actually useful in ganks?
So, in ganks.
That's what it says.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm reading the questions. I'm the voice of the people. I told you.
Well, I don't want to be the voice against the people. Damn. So what's important here? When you're an external combatant, what is happening is that the person you are fighting can block on the side that you are fighting from, and that will block 100% of light attack, heavy attacks, regular directional attacks. So yes, it's maybe not a good idea to throw those into the person. Unblockables are a little better because at least they have to parry or dodge. Bashes are even stronger because the person has to dodge. Guard breaks are also quite strong because even if they counter guard break, the other person that you're ganking with can attack in that amount of time. And that's what people are doing quite globally. So if you're the Orochi or the Peacekeeper in this scenario, your responsibility is to either guard break and allow the other person to hit, or maybe they're the stronger ganker. They should be the ones doing the melee or whatever, and you should be the one hitting based on that. I think that's okay. I think it'll be a little more interesting when you see the 1v1 revenge gain changes, that, hey, maybe Orochi and Peacekeeper can do their jobs a little better, which are one-on-one or those kind of group fights. Let's see what happens there before we make any, hey, let's make a crazy new move solutions.
This is complex, this thing of balancing.
Yeah.
You do one thing and you break everything. So next one. That is a fairly long question, but not the longest. The longest is coming. We kept the longest for the end. What do you think about the state of the balance yourself right now? It is cool. Right now, there are a lot of heroes rising on the tier list, while others are pushed to the worst. Kenzen Duel, for example, is considered in Comp FH trashy. But the real question is, do you think that those tiers are a lot closer than before, rather than what we had in year 1 and 2?
Year 1 and 2. Okay.
We're in year 3 now.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I saw your little, what year is this thing at the beginning? 2000 something.
Yeah, someone messed with me.
Okay, so let's start at the end of the question and work our way backwards.
Because that is the real question.
That's a real question? Okay.
That's what I said. The real question is.
So are the tiers a lot closer
than before?
Than in year 1 and 2?
Rather than what you had in year 1 and 2.
Okay, so if you were here with us on day 1 or year 1, put a 1 in chat. If you're there in 2, put a 2 in chat. That might be fun.
And thank you very much if you were there since day 1.
Yes, thank you. And if you're new, that's cool too.
Tap N for new.
No? Yeah, maybe.
We're just messing with the chat now.
strange history lesson coming for you guys.
No, Alex is looking at the chat and she's not happy. She's like, guys, what have you done?
There's not a lot of ones, or maybe there's too many ones. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about what it was like at launch, right? Super turtle meta, and also some strange behaviors on some characters, right? There was Warden 100 MS before hit on melee attacks. Conqueror had superior block on everything. Bashes knocked down if out of stamina, so you can imagine the loops that are possible with that. So infinite loops all across the board. We ended up with one-hit kills that were discovered season 3, I want to say. I'm not really sure at this point, but they were there on day 1. The fun unlock tech, and then eventually...
Oh, man. I'm going to start twitching. Unlock tech.
Yeah.
You bring back bad memories.
The history here. And then Peacekeeper being super strong in a large part because of the turtling aspects. So let's say it was a little less balanced than it is today, first of all. And also a little less healthy than it was overall. But, you know, new game, new genre, really, right? It's its own thing, doing its own thing. There's the expectation that 600 lights would work kind of across the board. You can play story mode right now and check out, like, hey, what is it like fighting with this? And it's amazing to me. It's like, I saw a time capsule of the Raider dancing video and the This Is My Swamp video, and it's another universe, man. It's another universe.
But we said it many times. Someone coming in today is literally playing a different game.
It's so much better. It's so much better. So comparing it to year 1, so much better. Season 5, which was the start of year 2.
Yep.
You know, the reworks began, right? The whole mentality of like, hey, let's really push towards offense. You saw before that, even in year 1, Raider was the first to get, like, let's call it a rework. It wasn't called a rework then, but like stunning tap cancels from everything. Raider's Fury being like, at the time it seemed like shockingly good. You know, over time obviously it's lost its shine a little bit, but the fact that it was meant to fight and try to improve the fight, offense, sustainable offense, both initiation and continuing it. You could see the ball beginning to roll. Gladiator tried to keep that going. Shaman ended up with like the unblockable and fast 400 attacks and stuff like that. Kensei, Zerk, Conqueror, removing superior block, so no free guard break on blocking, so free damage for doing nothing, basically. And then it just kept going after that, right? Like Warden rising to power again, the Wulin coming out strong, Black Prior coming out strong. You can see that the ball's rolling and rolling and rolling. System changes of parry, no free guard break, therefore no free ledge. We're talking about stuff like 1v1 revenge game changes, like the acceleration of like, let's turn this game from what it was initially, like an amazing novelty, something new, something beautiful, and different that you've never experienced before, into something that retains that, but also has a like, let's get down to business on some shaving these numbers to what we need to be. So these fights are getting more and more exciting. 4v4, let's take a look at that. At the end of year 1, start of year 2, we're talking, you must pick Shaman, you must pick PK, you must pick Nobushi, and you may pick your 4th hero from a list of, say, Kensei, Kong, Zerk, a couple others, right? But even with a drastically reduced roster, then compared to now, we have much more variety now, right? There are, still very, very strong picks, but the list of, characters not considered viable at the ultra highest level is about the same as the mandatory picks used to be. So we're kind of flipping it. It's not perfect. Obviously, we still got a long way to go, but Dominion especially, and now with Breach, like, it's night and day, right? There's so much more variety. There's ability to attack and do things. And it's only getting better every patch as we go. And on the dual side, the staring games are slowly moving in the right direction. It's a long, long road to get there, but one step at a time, right? You can see like Zerk versus Conk, at least, Zerk versus Warden are interesting matchups where stuff is happening. So for me, for sure, right, the game is night and day from day one to today.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we have to go to a day with 2 suns in the sky. That's the kind of goal where it's super bright and it's amazing. But you can see, I think, with every single patch, that step, one little step towards that. So
Cool. So 3 questions left, and next one, it says reduce parry reward question mark. You talked about reducing the reward of a light parry to not be a free side heavy, and still want to go in that direction? Perhaps if you buff the overall damage of most attacks, light, heavy, chip damage, little, chip damage, then alongside the parry change would surely speed up the turtly feel of the game. Make it feel more lethal and visceral, like combat should feel like.
So I can kind of agree with that. I'm kind of still on the fence about that. So, I mean, the benefit right now is that if you parry a heavy, you get generally a light. This shifts a little bit for different characters, but let's say a light. And if you parry a light, you get a heavy. So, assuming we end up in a world where landing a light is, say, like every 3 times you get parried, then we're in a good state because you'll be doing roughly the amount of damage. So light plus light plus light versus 1 heavy, or light plus light versus 1 heavy, depending on damage and depending on risk, blah, blah, blah. Then we're in a very good state. The reason I don't think that necessarily making a light parry punish a light and not a heavy, so no matter what you only get a light, is yes, it reduces the punishment for being parried, which is good in trying to help offense. However, it's not that good because it just, in my opinion, will make time to kill longer without making the actual risk of throwing the light attack any better than it is today. So I feel like you're going to be parried and blocked just as often as you are today, but now it has to happen a few more times before they kill you.
Okay.
So I think what would be better is if these lights were a little bit more viable than they are today, so that, yes, when you parry, you punish it strong, but they hit a little more often than they do today, so they're getting their little bit of damage in over the course of the fight. I think that would be the healthiest for offense being good, but then still for punishment being interesting in that high-level players understand maximum punish versus a heavy attack, maximum punish versus light attack, maximum punish when they go out of stamina, maximum punish when you grab them and get to throw them and stuff like that. So that knowledge creates some depth. So we want to retain that if we can.
Next one. Will that mechanism be introduced where you don't lose stamina during OOS when being bashed?
Out of stamina.
Out of stamina. Acronyms. TLA, 3 letters acronym. I worked in a company like years ago. They had a guide for 3 letters acronym. On my first day, they gave me a guide because they called it the TL. So they used it.
So the guide itself had a abbreviation?
Yeah.
Was that in the guide?
No, it was the first line. 3 letters acronym, TLA, and I had a full guide. Okay, so let's go back. Will that mechanism be introduced when you don't lose stamina during out of stamina when being bashed? It was such a good idea, but still not. It's not in game.
I do agree that it's a very good idea. We are actively working on this thing. Obviously, can't tell you time as to when that happens because I'm never right on my promises on time, so I don't make them if I can. But yes, basically what is happening, or what we would like to happen, is if you are out of stamina and you get hit by a melee attack that would drain your stamina, it would not drain your stamina. Maybe it would just pause it, freeze it for X amount of time, that kind of stuff. Basically, the overall intention is that the time that you spend out of stamina ends up in some reasonable portion and not infinitely into a, oh, you got bashed and then hit, bashed and then hit, and you never get to regain your stamina. So it should reduce frustration. We obviously still want to allow for putting an opponent out of stamina is a bad situation for them and a hugely beneficial situation for you. And it's about finding that threshold of not guaranteed kill or not the guy is stuck there forever out of stamina. That's what it's for. It went out, pieces of it went out a little too early. That's why it's not out today. It's about trying to find all the cases like Raider's Stunning Tap, which sets you to a value which is a little odd. It sets you to 20. It doesn't drain you to 20. It doesn't drain you by 20. It sets you to 20. And then stuff like Carry, which is draining stamina and degenerating. Like, these are all weird cases that have to be solved before we can deploy.
Last questions. And bear with me because this one is 9 lines long. Okay, let's go. I'm feeling I'm reading a fan fiction reward right now. Is guard break duration normalized across the board? By guard break duration, I mean the time between guard breaking someone and starting the attack, and the opponent being able to block it. By changing that duration per character, it would be possible to add or remove some guard break punishes without affecting actual attack speed of the character and vice versa. And breaking something else in return. For example, reducing Raider's heavy speed by 100 milliseconds while also reducing his guard break duration by 100 milliseconds with speed up his heavy without allowing him use it as a guard break punish. Don't tell me you want me to read it again.
Sorry, I missed a part of that in the middle. Okay, so guard break duration. Right now, it is mostly standardized across the board. Everybody has, once they start an attack, an 800 MS window to land an attack. This is why you're seeing stuff like Warden Side Heavy, which is 800 MS, you're going to get it when you guard break someone and you throw that attack. Yes. That is the same for every character, I believe, except Aramusha, who has a slightly shorter one. I want to say 6 or 7, 6, I think, which allows you heavy as well, but because of the duration, you have to pick the side correctly. So, could it be longer on Aramusha to be fully standardized? Everybody gets 800? Yes, but then it would give the other heavy as well. So that's something to consider when we take a look at this. At the same time, if we're talking about lengthening it for certain heroes to get bigger punishes, maybe that should be the question, is like, why, if I'm Highlander, do I want to get more than either my zone first hit that I have to cancel or my light to give me more damage, or Raider without a wall or whatever? That's a question that I think is more interesting on a per character basis. Because it, again, is interesting to try to find that depth of what do I get on guard break, what do I get on wall splat, what do I get on out of stamina throw. And that difference allows us to vary the characters a little bit better than I don't think standardizing or unstandardizing the guard break would really get us much, except in like crazy cases of Aramusha where all the heavies are super fast. I think that answers the question.
Good. So, Spaniard, because he told me I can just call him Spaniard because I'm not comfortable with the first part. We want to thank you very much for giving such comprehensive answers to his questions. You want to take that one?
Can I say no?
You can.
I mean, we can try.
Okay. So, we took one live. So, how do the fight teams feel about Valkyrie in terms of damage and recoveries post-rework?
Valkyrie. Okay, so the question, I think, opens up a bigger question.
Oh, shit.
For me. Sorry. You don't have to read it, though. Valkyrie today, as we saw in the state of balance images, is another one of those kind of like inconsistent between full population Platinum Plus and the competitive tournament level tier list composed by top players. So what does that mean? How is that interesting? It's kind of in the Zhang Zheng situation where top players are saying, hey, actually it's beatable because you just avoid most of it. whereas full population is mostly taking those risks that these guys are not. And I think that speaks to the difference between like, hey, you can roll away from everything, hey, you can unlock, shuffle walk away from a lot of things. This, I think, represents mostly the difference. At the same time, it kind of also opens a question as to which of these do you find most interesting to look at, which of these sets of data? Do you find the answer to be somewhere in the middle? Whereas if you believe that full population was the most important thing to look at, then you would say with Valkyrie, it's super successful and we should leave it alone, or we should nerf it somewhat. Whereas if you look at the competitive tournament level tier list, you would think the opposite, and it should be a buff coming to her. So that opens a question for her, for Eramusha, for Zhang Zheng, all these characters. How do we balance that line of we have top tier competitive gameplay for these heroes, and we have a good feeling of fairness and I feel viable with my character at each level of play. And that is a very, very difficult balancing act, because it's not just, is it balanced? Yes, no, boom, screw everybody who's, you know, below a certain threshold. And at the same time, the opposite side as to, can we make it feel good here, but we have this list of heroes that we know is unviable. Trying to address both can lead us into these kind of difficult situations. And we continue to try to understand what is the current case and what do we do about it.
Okay. So, Stefan, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
Always
for your
happy
time
to.
on the show. I hope it helped you all to, from Stefan's question, to understand a little bit more. So thanks again. So now we're going to mix things up. We're going to go next to the community corner. We're going to end the show with a Dev Talks, the first in a very long time. So thanks again, and let's go back to the community corner. So Stefan said I sang for him the last time. Maybe I could sing all by myself. So here we are for the community corner. So we have a couple for this week before going into the Dev Talks. First one from Zulu King. I love the name, Duel of the Fats. So I cannot be in that duel anymore. So Duel of the Fats by Zulu King. So we are back. Thank you, Zulu Viking, for this video. At one point, it was like, okay. So next one, Long Bong of the Law, the mystery of the disappearing gong. Very nice. So, third video of the week. I Nibiru, a new tier of openers. Arriba! Okay, next one, Older 21, don't mess with Ward's gal.
Lamau, get body!
Run.
Very nice. So next one from Frames. There were no signs. I'm from a generation where we use our real name, so I'm always struggling with made-up name. So Frames. There were no signs. It came out without warning.
There were no signs. It came without warning. Doom came to us all.
Actually, I realized while reading it that it was the initial sentence of our E3 2016 trailer. There were no signs and came without warning. So, last video of the day before moving on to the dev talks from Sadikost. La Daddy, you got that.
Cause you got that. Cause you got that. Cause you got that. Cause you got that. Cause you got that. Cause you got that. Cause you got that. Like you, cause you got that. Something that I need in my life, so give it to me. Cause you got that. Like you, cause you got that. Something that I need in my life, that I need, so cause you got that.
So here we are, last segment of the show for today. If you've been a regular viewer, you've seen like over the past year, we've done a lot of those dev talks where I sit with a member of the team and we go into details about what they've done in the past, their passion, how they got into the industry, and things like that. We think it's a fun way to meet some of the people working in the shadow on For Honor. And this week we are meeting Jessica Sauvageau. She's a very talented cosplayer on the team. She does a lot of. She's a dev tester on For Honor. So this will be our last segment of the show. So I'm taking this opportunity to thank you all for being with us today. Stay on to watch what Jess has to say. Next week, Mr. Pope will be back in the driver's seat while I will enjoy the sun of the Caribbean. Have a good week, everyone. Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. In today's Dev Talk, we are meeting Jess Savageau, dev tester on For Honor. Hello, Jess.
Hi.
Welcome on Dev Talk.
Thank you.
Jess, also known as the Raider, as Wrench in Watch Dogs 2, as Mary Reed from Black Flag, Prompto from Final Fantasy 15, or Kefka from Final Fantasy 6, because she's doing a lot of cosplay, right?
Yes, a lot since 2007.
So it's a big passion of yours.
It is.
So do you go in convention?
Always.
Always? Oh, I love that. I used to work with a guy when I was doing Avatar. His name is Philip,
Okay.
and he's hiding behind the camera.
This guy over there.
Yeah, and Philip, he's the one who introduced me to more the cosplay, and we went to, I think, Comic-Con together. Yeah, he was at Comic-Con with me in San Diego in 2009, and I know he was doing a Stormtrooper costume and everything. And even today, 10 years later, when I talked to my wife about Philip, she said, the
She
guy who
knows
did
who it
costumes.
is.
Yes, that guy. So, dev tester.
Yes.
Can you tell us what does a dev tester do?
Contrary to popular belief, we do not play all day.
We get all that. Even
No,
I
it's
do.
because I have a lot of people going like, oh, you play games all day. This is so cool. No. Depending on what cell you're working on, it can be very either very complicated or very simple. If I showed you my screen, like some people would be like, what the hell is that? So yeah, it's a lot like working in collaboration with the rest of the team, making sure everything works as it's supposed to be.
But can you describe like you said you're screening
Yeah.
what's on your screen? Like what does it mean if you're not playing all day? So if you want to break that pattern, that stereotype that people has, so what does it mean?
Well, for me, for example, I'm a level design dev tester. So
Okay.
what I do all day is go into the engine and just go around the world and make sure everything is placed properly, everything is working as it should. The engine is very easy to actually comprehend this kind of thing once you got the whole setup properly.
Okay.
So yeah, it's mostly making sure that you cannot get out of bound, that everything is where it should be. Lighting is correct, and it's basically knowing a bit of everything about that cell that we are working on. So it's not specific. You have to know a bit of everything.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
So it's,
like even I'm
it's
learning some stuff.
It's complicated.
I do learn some stuff. So I'm going to ask you that question right away because I already know the answer. And when I introduced you, I said you're also a raider.
Yes.
So you're a
Yes.
Viking, right?
Viking
for life.
Yes.
Because you did the cosplay of the raider.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. So.
It was one of my
And it's dirty hard being a Viking. I can see that.
It is actually. I wanted to get a tattoo of it. I don't have the money yet, but I wanted to get that thing on my back here.
Oh, yeah?
So yeah, still in my plans, but.
Cool. I like that. And for how long have you been on For Honor?
3 years, 4 years now. Wow. Yeah, no, 3 years, almost 4.
Okay, and what were you doing before?
I worked on Rainbow Six, and before that, I was on Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
So I did a bit of.
So you've been at Ubisoft for?
6 years now.
6 years?
Yeah.
Okay. And before Ubisoft, were you at school? Did you do something else completely?
No, actually, I went to school to learn level design and stuff.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, I need a job. So I went to apply everywhere, nobody wanted me. So at one point I was like, oh, you know what, there's a small testing company in my area, I'll go. It was Bug Tracker at the time, I think now it's Global Step. They took me in, I was like, okay, fine. So I moved on to THQ, and then THQ closed, and I'm here.
You came aboard when?
No, I came like a month before.
A month before THQ Montreal was bought out by
exactly.
UB Montreal.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I should have stayed a month longer. It would have been
that's
like
6 years. Yeah, that is
that
6
would have
years
been
ago.
a nice
About
transition.
6, 7 years ago.
Yeah, it's a little while ago.
Yeah, interesting. So you worked on many projects at UB Montreal, like you mentioned. So, but how did you hear about For Honor first? Like, when did you meet that project?
That was back when I finished Assassin's Creed. I was interviewed like on the inside of the company to either be here or be on Rainbow Six. And then a year later, I got JY from QC was like, you know, we're gonna take you. We're gonna see what you can do. And yeah,
And GY is the one that we met before in Dev Talk with the knife, tattoo, and the gamepad. So
he's
a
a
cook.
very good guy. Very good guy.
And he's a good cook.
Yeah,
I know he does his,
Yes.
his summer thing. every
His
time.
barbecue.
His barbecue. And he's a cook, so
Yep.
you better be good. But have you played a lot of fighting game before? Is that why you wanted to come on For Honor?
No, actually. The reason why I wanted to come on For Honor is mostly the aesthetic of it. Because
Okay.
I love Vikings, as I told you. And I kind of like knight stuff and, you know, like old historic stuff. That's why I was more into Assassin's Creed and this, because it's like, I like the history. I like anything that has life. And yeah, it's mostly the aesthetic that brought me here.
And what kind of game do you play?
I'm more of an RPG player.
Okay.
Yeah.
And which one's your favorite?
Oh God, that's hard. I would say
Your favorite.
that's probably nostalgia goggle talking, but I would say Chrono Cross.
Okay.
Chrono Cross was like dear to my heart.
So I'd like to go back to cosplay a little bit, if
Yes.
you don't mind, because
Of
I know
course.
it's a big passion of yours. So when you, for me, I find that passionate that to see people doing cosplay, and I don't like Halloween. The simple reason is because my birthday is 2 days after, and like my
Nobody has
entire
time for
childhood
you
was
anymore.
was ruined because of Halloween. So, but like, what's your process? Like, how do you decide on a character you will do, and like walk us through a little bit of what you do?
It's very hard, like, to pick a character from a certain universe, because when you pick something, you have to keep in mind that this is what you're going to be working on for like a few months. Sometimes it's like less, but depending on what cosplay you are looking for. For example, the Raider, I think I worked on it 3 months, like at work. On lunchtime, I was just like painting my axe and everything. I usually go for like how much I like the character, how does it look, does it suit my personality a bit, like I like the badass person, you know, I'm like, yeah, I mean, sometimes I have this little, you know, more girly girl, but it's usually way back, like I usually go for the badass character first.
Okay. And what's your next?
My next is, oh God, it's so far away. I think I will be working on Pain from Final Fantasy X-2 for Otakuthon next summer with Maddie. I don't know if they know about her.
I don't know Maddie. Maddie works with. She's on the For Honor team. She's on my team.
So yeah, we'll be doing a little group with her, and it's gonna be nice.
Any final word to the community who are watching us right now?
I love you guys. Keep on doing what you're doing. I'm not much of a fighter myself, so I'm not really good at the game. So you probably won't see me on the battlefield because I play against bots. But whatever you are doing, fan arts, cosplays, do it all. It's so cool to see everything coming, and that's it.
Thank you very much, Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, and see you soon for another Dev Talk.
It's got that. It's got that. Like you, 'cause you got that something that I need. It's got that. Like you, 'cause you got that something that I need. It's got that. It's got that.
Oh.
And For Honor, baby.
Hell yeah!